Good morning, everyone, and Shabbat Shalom. You know, March 20th is International Happiness Day. It was proclaimed by the UN. And every year, in honor of International Happiness Day, there is a World Happiness Report that evaluates the happiness level in every country in the world. And this year's report, which was just put out last week, lists all the countries in the world from the happiness to the least happiest countries. Well, not surprisingly, the last country, the least happiest country in the world, was Afghanistan. But on the bottom 20 list, there were countries like Lebanon, which was the second least happiest country, as well as Egypt and other Middle Eastern countries. However, when you look at the top 20 happiest country, the United Kingdom came in number 19 happiest country in the world. The United States came in number 15th happiest country. Canada came in the 13th happiest country. And Israel came in the 4th happiest country in the world. Imagine Israel with all its problems, all its challenges, terrorism, and especially what's going on now in Israel, and surrounded by so many enemies, came in the 4th happiest country. And this is a scientific study based on 6 different factors, including generosity level, income level, health level, longevity. It includes social connections. But what is the underlying, overriding secret to the happiness of Israelis? And I think you can find the answer in the holiday of Passover. We know that when the Jewish people were about to go out of Egypt, God told them, take a sheep and tie it to your bedpost and put the blood on your doorpost, and I will pass over the homes of the Jewish people as I kill the firstborn in Egypt and set you free. And that's why the name Passover is for this passing over. And a matter of fact, this Shabbat, the Shabbat before Passover, is called the Great Shabbos, Shabbat Hagadol. Every Shabbat we wish people a great Shabbos. But this Shabbat is called the Great Shabbos. Why? Because it's the Shabbat that the miracle occurred. What miracle? The miracle that when the Jews took the sheep to their bedpost on this Shabbat to get ready for their freedom, the Egyptians came and said, what are you doing? They said, well, God is setting us free this week. We're going out on Thursday. And therefore we're getting ready to slaughter the Paschal lamb, have a Passover meal, and then we're going to put the blood on the doorpost, and God's going to pass over our homes as he kills the firstborn in Egypt. And when the firstborn in Egypt heard this, they went to Pharaoh and demanded the freedom of the Jews so that they will not die in the killing of the firstborn. And Pharaoh refused, and a civil war broke out as the firstborn staged a rebellion against the Egyptians in leadership and demanded the freedom of the Jews. And that's why it's called a great miracle occurred there. But think about the faith and the courage, but also the optimism that the Jewish people had to have the faith and belief that indeed they were going to be set free despite hundreds of years of slavery and 9 prior failed attempts to get Pharaoh to let the Jewish people go. It was this enthusiasm and this faith and this optimism that led to their freedom. And when you think about what is the key component to achieving freedom in your life, and what is the secret to the fact that Israel came in the 4th happiest country, is because Jews live with optimism. Jews live with enthusiasm. To an Israeli, anything's possible. That's why it's the startup nation, because they dreamed the biggest dreams. And they had the greatest courage to come and establish a country, a middle of the Middle East. And by the way, Israel is the only country in the Middle East that was in the top 20 list of happiest countries, let alone number 4 in the world. Why? Because when you live with faith, when you live with optimism, when you live with enthusiasm and passion, as Israelis do, that leads to great happiness. They tell a story of this shoe company back in the day that sent 2 salesmen to different parts of Africa to try to sell shoes. And after a couple of months, the first salesman calls and says, I'm packing up and coming home. There's nothing to do here. And they said, what do you mean? We sell our shoes worldwide. And the salesman said, well, no one in Africa wears shoes. They go barefoot. So I have nothing to do here. I'm returning home. And then they get a call from the second salesman who says, send more inventory. We need to build warehouses here. We need to open up stores all over Africa. And they say, what do you mean? He says, there's so much opportunity here in Africa. They say, what do you mean? He says, well, nobody wears shoes. There's so much opportunity to sell shoes. Sometimes it's just our attitudes. And when we have a positive attitude and a positive outlook and a can-do attitude, with that optimism and faith, we succeed in achieving freedom. And that is the happiness that we find and discover. So have a Chag Kasher, have a good Shabbos, a great Shabbos, and a happy and kosher Passover. All the best.